All right, welcome into our moods. We are a little bit behind because we were setting up something special. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it's going to be special, and we're going to have a lot of fun with it. This is going to be a really, really fun one. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll move right into the normal vows and chanting and the meditation, and then special part will happen. So, all right. Okay. So, like I said, we're gonna have a lot of fun with this one. Those who have seen me do Angulimala in the past, this is gonna be even more fun than it usually is. Let's talk a little bit before we get into the really fun part. So, I have to give you the backstory. For those who don't know, or for those who haven't heard me give this one before, the basics of it are there was a young man who was, when he was born under the so-called robber star, which is not a good thing, right? This is in ancient astrology, this would have been basically saying this guy is doomed to being just a criminal. And obviously his parents did not like that one bit. They did not want that to be the case. And since they were people of some means, they may not have been like the most fancy people on the face of the earth, but they had at least some money to them. They could do a little bit. The first thing that they did is they decided they were going to name him Ahimsa, which means harmless. Good plan, right? It's a good start. So to kind of counteract when he was born, they gave him a name that said, okay, well, instead of being this kind of like, easy to blows, easy to hurt, easy to causing harm, taking people's stuff, that kind of person, instead of that, we're gonna name him harmless. We're gonna give him a reminder, and every single day, every single time he hears his name, he will know that he is supposed to be harmless. And so, much of his young life, that's what he was, and he was very, very, very gentle, very mild, very, very meek, kind of, not meek in the sense that we would know it, but kind of very gentle, very smart, very intelligent, which his parents really encouraged, and they made, they put effort into making that a big part of who he was, right? So he's super intelligent, and he eventually gets to the point where he goes to the big university back at the time, which there's still variations of, and we still actually know where the original building was. We still have the ruins of it, even though it's no longer in active service and hasn't been for centuries. It got burned down a few times, right? Got sacked, got ransacked, whatever. Anyway, so he's there at essentially the Oxford or the Harvard or the Cambridge or the Yale of his day, and he is doing splendidly. He is doing so well, in fact, that his teacher is thinking about naming him as his successor. And obviously, none of the other students want this, because all of the students, every single one of the students, they all want that honor for themselves. And you can see where this is going, right? So a plot comes afoot. Now, they tried a few times, and it didn't quite work. The first couple of times, they were like, oh, he's totally after your wife, right? Oh, he's totally after your job. And for the first one, it was like, no, he's not. He doesn't care about any of that. And the second time, it was like, I want him to have my job. Like, what? And then finally, they got under the teacher's skin, and they figured out a way. And so a teacher started to get kind of, what do I call it, anxious around him. He was very kind of like defensive, like kind of worried, kind of concerned. And so he said, so as they're closing in on like graduating, he goes to Ahimsa and says, okay, you have one more thing that you have to do before you can graduate. You must come back to me with 1,000 fingers. Now, obviously he wants to graduate, he wants to make his teacher proud, he wants to do the right thing. It's not the right thing, but he wants to, he wants to make sure he's doing his part. And so he has two options. One, he can either go to the charnel grounds, because each finger has to come from a different person, from a different body, right? And that was the stipulation. Each finger has to come from a different body. So he can either go to the charnel grounds and like start cutting fingers off of each individual body that's in there, which it would have worked, right? It still would have counted. That's 1,000 fingers either way, right? Or he could take the method that he ended up taking, and well, let's just say he wasn't just incredibly smart, or incredibly intelligent. He was also incredibly fast, very fleet of foot, and very strong. And so he started out a reign of terror that it was first of, 1, and then 2, and then 5, and then 10, and then 20. And eventually he starts like having this, put them, like, in order to not lose them, he has to take all of these fingers and sew them together, right? Come on, join us over here. Right, so we have an Angulimala in our midst, right? So he's getting his fingers, he gets, and he's so fast and so strong and so smart that he can take down groups of like 10, 20, 30, 40 at a time. People were terrified. They did not want to go into the woods where he was because they knew they were all going to get dead, and they knew that he was going to take their fingers and add them to his collection. Nobody wanted to go to that forest. So sometimes they had to, and they would go, and so he was getting more and more. He got 100, he got 200, he would 3, 4, 5. About that time, right? So the locals they took it up to one of the Buddha's favorite people, and I say favorite people in terms of like one of the leaders that he spoke with most often, King Pasenadi. Right? And so they take it to King Pasenadi and they're like, look, there's this murderer, this mass murderer living in your forest, in your land. What are you doing about it? And King is like, okay, well, we didn't know, but we do now, and we're going to take an army and we're going to kill him. So, King Pasenadi is on his way, right? Angulimala has, and while they're marshaling, Angulimala gets up to 900. He gets up to 999. 999, he knows that he's one short. He's one short. And at that time, his mother goes to try and confront him. She's heard about it, and she goes to try and confront him. And the Buddha, knowing that this is going to result in ahimsa's, so he wasn't ahimsa anymore. They had taken to calling him Angulimala, which means necklace of fingers, which we have on display. And so she was going to go and confront him and say, no, time to turn around. She didn't know that he wasn't going to care. He was gone at this point. He was one more and that's it. That's all he had to do. That's it. Easy business. He didn't realize that his teacher was never going to let him graduate, even if he did bring back the 1,000. That was basically saying, get out of here, don't come back. Giving him an impossible task. Even if it does work out, it is still saying, look, you're just a terrible human being, get out of here. And so the Buddha knows this. And the Buddha, using his, we're gonna move into this area. So the Buddha uses his spiritual capacity, and he wanders over into that forest, and Angulimala sees him. Angulimala sees the Buddha, and he's like, oh, hey, perfect, monk, defenseless, no chance, this is it, it's too easy, right? And so Angulimala, despite being known for being so fast, he could chase down a deer. He's chasing after the Buddha, and the Buddha is just in there walking. The Buddha is just walking, and Angulimala is back to running, chasing after this Buddha this recluse, this monk who was just walking. Eventually, Angulimala, he gets all tuckered out. He's beat. He is just run out as far as he could go, and that's it. He is done. He is totally done. No energy left. And so he says to the Buddha, stop. And the Buddha looks at him and says, I have stopped. You're the one who's still moving. Obviously, the Buddha is still walking, and so he's clearly not stopped, but monks can't lie, right? The Buddha's not supposed to be able to lie. So this is super confusing for Angulimala. Angulimala looks at him and says, "What do you mean?" Right? And the Buddha looks at him and says, "I have stopped harming people. You're the one who's still doing it." At which point Angulimala knows what's happened, and he sees what he's done, he sees what he's become. He throws down his weapons, and he takes off the necklace, and he throws the necklace out. And he comes and he approaches the Buddha, and he says, "Make me a monk." And the Buddha says, "Come, monk." And then they walk. They walk to the nearest temple. And what is still happening in the background that we can't forget about, right? So they're walking, and the Buddha's explaining how to be a monk and what to do, and how to live a good spiritual life, right? And so Angulimala and the Buddha are walking, and they reach the temple. And sometime after they do, right, the Angulimala gets all of the requisites. He gets all of the stuff that a monk is supposed to have, right? The bowl, the needle, the shaving kit, right? The robes. And the fun part happens here. So King Pasenadi didn't forget, and he's got his whole army coming with him, right? They brought a lot of people, some 500 people, some 500 warriors, totally decked out, totally ready for war, complete and total war against this one dude. And so they get there, and they get to the temple where the Buddha is, and King Pasenadi sees the Buddha, and they're good friends, right? They're amicable, they're in good standing, they have a good rapport between them. And he says, "Oh, hey Buddha, okay, awesome, we can take a rest here, so we're gonna stop and take a rest." And so Pasenadi, does the normal thing. He salutes the Buddha. He goes and he stands and bows and sits to one side. And the Buddha's like, "Okay, well, why are you here?" Because he knows exactly what's going on. The Buddha knew why Pasenadi was making his way that direction. And he's like, so King, what brings you out here?" And King Pasenadi's like, "Okay, so we're hunting this madman, this absolute mass murderer, this terrible human being, this really bad dude. He killed so many people, and my people my citizens just won't take it, so we're gonna go kill him." And the Buddha, you can see him kind of smirking in the background, right? You can see him kind of smirking there, and he says, "Okay, well, that seems like a terrible human being. What if he was right here in this temple? What would you do?" Because obviously, when you go into a temple, right, you put your weapons down and you lay them to the side. So So King Pasenadi isn't armed. He's not armed, and none of his his warriors are armed, and they're all kind of just sitting there. And the king would be like, "That would be a really bad thing, right? Because I can't defend myself." And the Buddha says, "Well, what if he had changed? What if he had endured a transformation?" And the king is like, "Well, see, at that point, I would totally give him all the robes and the requisite to make sure that he had everything he needed to keep practicing. Like, if he were to become a recluse and become part of your order, that would be a totally different thing." The Buddha is still sitting there smirking, like, you know what's going on, right? And so the Buddha is like, "Okay, well, good king, this is Angulimala." And the king goes white as a sheet. Because obviously they're like so close that Angulimala could easily just tear him apart. And if the reputation that Angulimala had is true, he is fast enough to do it too. Fast enough and strong enough to totally take this thing. Yep. And so the king goes just white as a sheet. He's looking at it, and the Buddha explains what happened, and King Pasenadi is looking at it and saying, "I don't know how you did it, but you did something special. We're going to get out of your hair so you can do it. We're going to go off and go this way. You have fun with that."
You trust you? It's not that much. Give it a couple years, please.
Yep. And so the king left, and now venerable Angulimala, because he did not change his name back. He kept that name so he could remember what he had become and what he had transcended, what he had gone beyond. And that's the beautiful part there, right? So Angulimala is starting to practice, and there's one more part that we're going to kind of talk about. So he goes on, Angulimala starts going on the alms rounds as all of the monks do, and nobody will give him any food. Nobody will even open their doors for him. They're terrified. They still believe that he's nothing but a mass murderer. Just, that's it. Nothing but a mass murderer. He's a dirtbag. He's been a dirtbag. He's always going to be a dirtbag. We see this in the military too sometimes, don't we? We see this, right? We've seen this in the past. So they're not doing nothing to help him. He goes back to the Buddha and he's kind of a little bit distraught, and he kind of looks at it and he's like, okay, well, what do I do? And the Buddha says, okay, there's a phrase that you can recite. Actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. So he goes out on one of his alms rounds, comes, and he's still getting nothing. And he notices that there is a woman in a very, very difficult pregnancy, giving difficult labor, about to give birth, and nobody's helping her. So he immediately goes back to the Buddha and he's like, hey, how do I help her? How do I fix this? What do I do? And the Buddha says, okay, well, you simply recite this one simple phrase. Since I was born, I have never harmed a living being. Which, obviously, Angulimala looks at him and says, like, what? And so the Buddha says, okay, so we're going to do this a little differently. Since I have taken the noble birth, that is, since I've become a monk, I have not harmed a single being. Angulimala says, okay, that we can do. So he goes back, he recites this, and in presence of the woman who's still in this mad labor, and imagine that, she delivers successfully and lives, and this is a beautiful thing. And the town looks at him and is like, killer finally didn't kill, but brought life in. Okay, we have to figure ourselves out now. And so he goes back to the town, as one would, right? And he explains to the Buddha what happened, and the Buddha's like, yep, okay, we got you figured out. And then the next morning when he goes out on his alms rounds, everybody is kind of like doing, they're giving him as the same alms that they would any other monk. And that shows the transformative power of even just a couple of words, right? A couple of words that have meaning. One word that has meaning is worth more than 1,000 words that have nothing. And those 2 words, all he was asking for was a recognition of who he was. Make me a monk. Come, monk. Those 2 words, come, monk. Ehibihu, changed everything. He recognized who he was, and he was able to let go of all the stuff that he wasn't, all of the stuff that was in his past but is not now. And that's the beautiful part about this, is he was able to transform. He was able to find that meaning, to find that purpose in his life. And all it took was 2 words. They had to be the right words, but all it took was 2 words.
And a second chance.
Yep. And somebody willing to look beyond his past to see who he really was, to give him that meaning. If that can happen for Angulimala, what does that say about us?
Especially, affecting darn near 1,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big impact.
Yeah. It's a major, huge impact.
Or an army coming after you and still being forgiven?
So, but yeah, we kind of wanted to do that one today, to talk about meaning and purpose and how we find it. And sometimes we find it even when everybody else is looking at it and saying, that's not possible. Sometimes it still is. Sometimes all it takes is a little bit, a couple words, a couple of the right words, a second chance, doing what we can to make sure that we are improving, that we are developing and growing, that we are spiritually transcending who we were so we can be who we are. So, And I'm going to leave it at that. We're going to go ahead and close out with the chanting and the vows. Would you like to introduce yourselves? For
Introduce myself.
yeah, Venerable Angulimala, played by.
Surprise show up with no introduction.
Introductions are hard when you're supposed to do in the military. Am I in frame here? Oh. Hi, I'm a regular. Name's Kane. A lot of people know me by Taylor. I've been coming here almost 2 years now. Inconsistently with training, but that's part of being a boot. But it's been a privilege and an honor coming to these every Thursday. If you have the time, please come on in. It's a blast. I also tune in on the live streams too whenever I'm out in the field myself. So if you have time, please come on in. That's kind of it for my introductions. Nothing really special about me. I'm just here.
Well, I mean, you have a part, right? So you are definitely part of the Sangha, and that's.
But I'm not a part above anyone else. We're all equals.
No, but you are still a part. You are part of the Sangha just like everyone else.
Alright.
We respect you. We honor your presence, right? There we go. Okay, let's close this thing out, and then we'll get you guys on with your day. Alright, thanks for watching Darwin Woods. We'll see you guys next time.